Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Her Hoop Stats podcast. Today is Thursday, September 25th, and we're kind of in our playoff off day, which we don't get very many of these once the postseason starts in the WNBA, but there are no games today, and there were no games yesterday, which is great for the players, great for everybody just kind of to take a little bit of a breather as we continue in these very, very chaotic and eventful playoff series. So, we're going to chat a little bit about that today here on the Her Hoop Stats podcast. My name is Chelsea Leite, and I am joined by Coach Helen Williams. And you know, it's always a good time when the two of us link up.
Back together again.
We're going to get into some fun stuff, talk about the playoffs, see what else, where the wind takes us. And just like chat. I think like the biggest thing, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation, it's like these playoff games have been so, I don't know if unpredictable is the word, but like they've just been so all over the place. I think it's like the playoffs are usually unpredictable, but I think this year, given the increase of injuries, the fact that everybody's a little bit more tired, the tight turnaround of all of these things, like it's just been very back and forth and not very consistent when it comes to who is performing on any night, who's dominating. We've only had one sweep so far, and that was in a 3-game series, which I don't know if you'd call winning 2 games in a row a sweep, but you know, everybody has their opinions. But Coach, I mean, first of all, just like, what is your general like opinion so far about these playoffs? Like, how have you felt about them?
I think the word unpredictable is a good word because as a coach, I'm going through and I'm thinking about things that it's going to take to win a game, and this team has this, and that team that does not have this or that.
Yeah.
And it's like you make these predictions and they're wrong. You're basing them, off of knowledge, off of the eye tests, and then you have a team like Indiana who beats Atlanta, right? And everybody's still saying, I can't believe they're there. I didn't pick them. I thought they would be in the playoffs, which would be more than an accomplishment for them based on the fact that they've had so many injuries. And then they end up getting in the second round, and then they win the first game at Vegas, and you're like, what is going on? And then Minnesota up by 20, and Phoenix is like, nah, not so fast, my friend, a la Lee Corso. And it just the unpredictability actually has been part of the fun. But if I'm a person that bets, and I'm not sure which direction to go.
Yeah, exactly. Also, now the Jonas Brothers are involved, which is fantastic. Have you heard all the stuff about the Jonas Brothers?
Yeah. So the playoffs are on the same night, and I saw something on Twitter the other yesterday. It was funny. They were like, it would be cool if the Jonas Brothers sang the national anthem.
Exactly. So for anybody who hasn't been, keeping up with this, so I mean, this has happened a lot in years past where the playoffs have come and these arenas are already booked with things. Like it's hard to predict when the playoffs are going to happen. It happens. There was a story a few years ago about how, I'm not sure which team it was, but they were displaced from their arena during the playoffs for Disney on Ice. And so usually in these situations, it's the WNBA team that has to leave and go somewhere else. But this time they said no. And when the Phoenix Mercury game that was, one that's coming up was scheduled on the same day as the Jonas Brothers concert in Phoenix, they said, Jonas Brothers, you got to go find another place, find another date. And then it started this like online war between Jonas Brothers fans and like WNBA fans, which like as both, I sit in both of those things. I went to a Jonas Brothers concert like a month ago here in Toronto. Love the Jonas Brothers. And I just thought it was so funny because they were like, they should put Nick Jonas versus Alyssa Thomas and whoever wins gets the arena. Meanwhile, Nick Jonas is like,
we know who would win that one.
Exactly. Alyssa Thomas would win that one. But yeah, there was just a lot of very funny like memes and videos and TikToks about it. But ultimately, the Jonas Brothers moved their concert to, I think, like the day after, and the Phoenix Mercury don't have to vacate their arena, which I think just shows like how much the game is growing and the fact that these arenas are really prioritizing these teams, and there's like a level of respect there that goes with like not letting 'Cause that would never happen in some other leagues, you know, when you think about the NBA, you think about the NHL, like, stuff like that, that would never happen, so the fact that we're now at this point for W teams is very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's due to the growth of the game, and now owners are gonna have to start thinking about this. If
Yep.
they're investing in their teams, there's going to be an expectation to be in the playoffs, and so when
Mhm.
you're scheduling things during that time period, there, might need to be a contingency clause in
There you go.
whatever entity you are scheduling and say, hey, you can have this date, but if our team makes the playoffs, then you're gonna have to here are the alternate dates that you can be at this venue because we're making them a priority. So yeah,
Exactly.
and a lot of things that are happening now are things that have been planned prior, like with the Golden State Valkyries.
Yeah.
That whole situation that was planned prior. So I think the only example I can give with NBA is I think the San Antonio Spurs have to vacate for some rodeo or something during the year, but they know
They
it's
know.
during the season and it's set, so they know the scheduling people know to just keep them on the road
Yeah,
during that
exactly.
time period. So yeah, it's now obviously a priority with when you're going to pay $300 million, you're going to assume that your team's going to be in the playoffs, and yeah, put those contingency clauses in the contracts.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think that was just, like, such a funny, like, side storyline of the playoffs where we just, like, had this whole I don't know, just funny stuff that happens with that, but and I mean, I think it's also, like, these teams work so hard for home court advantage, and they work so hard to be able to play in their home arena, and I know, like, some people may say, "Well, it's just a building," like, if you go down the street to another building, but it's not, it's, like,
No,
this
it's a vibe. It's a vibe and a feeling, and there's
familiarity.
a familiarity with your schedule and everything, and then just the energy that you get from your fans in that building that you're like that has an impact on the game.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so anyway, that was the other funny thing that came out, but back to the actual basketball, as much as I wanna talk about the Jonas Brothers all day, uh, let's get back to the basketball. I mean, we've been talking about just, like, generally these series, but let's go team by team. Game 3s are happening tomorrow night on Friday, and I it's crucial. Both series are at 1-1. I think these games are really going to set a tone for the rest of the series, are really going to be possibly turning points for these teams and possibly times where when you look back on your season, like this is where it goes right or wrong. And I think there's been so many different storylines in the second round in particular. Like I think when you think about the Phoenix and Minnesota series, that series has really been played in halves. Like it's been this half was this half was this team, and I think like the first team that really puts together a full basketball game is going to be the one that steps ahead. And I mean, I'm this is out fresh in my head because I was writing about it an hour ago. But then you flip to the other side of Indiana and Las Vegas, and I mean, defense has been such a big thing. I mean, we have fun. You text me a few times when teams are scoring a lot of points in the paint, and that's just a huge thing.
Oh, I hate that. Hate that.
And, that's such a huge thing, especially when you're going up against someone like Asia Wilson, who is the co-defensive player of the year, four-time MVP. She dominates that, and so that's such a big factor in these games. But, I mean, I'm curious, those were my kind of broad X factors about these 2 series. Let's go team by team now and talk about your X factors when it comes to game 3.
Yeah, but before I say that, in terms of the points in the paint, what's really important is how a particular team is getting those points, right?
Mhm.
If you're getting points in the paint from layups, that means your defense is great and there's a lot of offensive transition, right? If
Yeah.
you're getting points in the paint the traditional way, that means you're getting the ball to your post players in the way that you want to get the ball to them. So I think that has something to do with it too. I can't remember what game I texted you on, but it was like 52 points in the paint, and I was losing my mind. I'm like, God, play some defense. But anyway, uh, so X factors for me. I'm looking at Indiana, and I'm not going to pick a player. I'm going to pick Stephanie White and
Mhm.
and and the coaching staff too, because they have had to pivot, adjust, change so many things. They've had 19 different players, I think, on the team. And so
Yeah.
being able to figure out, what adjustments you need to make. I mean, it's always going to be chess versus checkers as far as I'm concerned. But I went back and I looked. Stephanie White over the course of her head coaching career is 13-13 before this season, in terms of her record. And so that's my X factor is can she continue to push the right buttons, make the right adjustments? Because there's not a whole lot that you can do. I mean, she talked about really just making things, simplifying things, because you can't be, you can't be too difficult when you're bringing in a new player, and you have to allow them to figure out ways to put them in positions that take advantage of what they do well. So I'm gonna say the X factor for Indiana is Stephanie White and the coaching staff.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw a very interesting stat online the other day that said that Steph White is 0-3 in series where she wins the first game of the series. So, I mean, Indiana won the first game of this Las Vegas series. They didn't win the first game of their Atlanta series, and now, I mean, that stat is being put to the test. For her now, and I think that's such an interesting stat. Like, usually winning the first game is such like a morale boost, especially when you do it on the road. And to hear that she hasn't won a series yet where she's won the first game is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could dive deep into the numbers on that, but in a vacuum, we don't know what went on with those particular situations in
Yeah,
terms of if someone was hurt or
yeah,
what kinds of plays were made. But yeah, I mentioned the numbers, but you do kind of throw that out of the way when you're when you're getting ready for the game. So it'll be interesting to see how they can continue to allow or put Kelsey Mitchell in positions where she can do her thing, and then Aaliyah Boston, for the most part, it's been pretty consistent, even though the primary ball handlers have been so different.
yep,
Um, got to give her some credit for that as well.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, let's move on to the team that's facing them, Las Vegas. What do you think is the X factor for them to kind of pull ahead in the series?
Well, the one X factor for sure is make sure and get Asia the ball in space so she can do her thing, because she can score at all three levels. And
Yep.
when you try to put her in one place and just have her at the block, and there's not a whole lot of movement, I think it makes it easier for teams to guard her. But I'm going to look at a combination of Kirsten Bell and Aaliyah Nye. I haven't really seen Aaliyah Nye very much in the playoffs, so the question is that because she's a rookie and doesn't really have that experience, and Kirsten Bell, I think, needs to score more when she's in there. So one of those two, or a combination of those two, and this is assuming that everybody else does what they're supposed to do with Jackie Young and um, with Jewel Lloyd, who needs to score on a consistent basis too. You're just assuming that Asia is going to do her thing, and Chelsea Gray is going to be the point guard, and any points that she gives you obviously is a plus.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, I think obviously Asia Wilson, and I think a lot of teams their game plan is like stop Asia Wilson and try and like dare anybody else to go off. And Jackie Young definitely has that potential. I mean, she's scored 19 points in game 1 when they held Asia Wilson to 16. I mean, she was the person who won them that series against the Storm when she made that huge play in the last possession. But still, I mean, I think it needs to be so much more of a team effort, with or without the success of stopping Asia Wilson
Right.
for them. Okay, so let's kind of flip over to the other series now, Phoenix versus um, Minnesota, which has been very interesting. Like I said, a series full of halves, like this half, that half. Then a team comes back and wins a bunch, and um, I know it's funny because I was saying this earlier in the week that like would have loved to see that halftime with Cheryl Reeve in game 1, like what she would have said, and then I mean we flip that now to game 2. Like I'm so curious what happened in that locker room for Phoenix in the half to be able to, you know, make them go on that run and come back and be able to win game 2. So, I mean, let's start with Phoenix because we're heading now into Phoenix's home stretch that they're going to have in this series, which I mean, the Phoenix home arena, excuse me, is definitely a big factor, an X factor.
Yeah, for sure. I got the pun there. Yeah, I mean their crowd is obviously huge for them. But I'm looking at Dewana Bonner
Mhm.
as an X factor. I mean, she's a veteran. She's been in WNBA forever. Been very effective and haven't really seen a whole lot from her
Mhm.
in these playoffs. And I think she really needs to step up because AT is going to do what she does. You're going to get some combination of outside shooting from Satu Sabali and whoever else that is, whether it's um, what's the kid's name who hit the shot the other day? Wickham, Sammy Wickham.
Yep.
Um, so you're going to have outside shooting, but I think she just brings a different skill set to the game. She can shoot threes. She can guard people on the perimeter with her length. She can rebound, and so I think her being a little more intentional, a little more aggressive, and intentional in what she does in terms of her contribution is going to be really important for Phoenix.
Yeah, I agree. I think this series is so close when you think about, I mean, these teams have been going back and forth all season, but yeah, I think the veteran presence of Bonner, I think, is such a an interesting part of this, knowing that Phoenix has so many like quote unquote rookies that aren't exactly rookies in age, but rookies in WNBA experience. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting factor. But then you flip over to Minnesota and they have so much experience and so much chemistry, kind of been the same core for them for a little while. So what do they need to do to be able to, I guess, right the ship? Because I mean, they should be going into this game 3 2-0 right now.
Well, the thing about Phoenix is that they just beat on you and
Yeah.
beat on you and beat on you and beat on you, and it depends on how the officials are going to call that. But I think that was when you disrupt the flow for Minnesota, that's a problem for them. And Phoenix is really good at doing that. But the other piece is just collectively, just have a sense of urgency. You have a team down by 20 and you have an opportunity to go up 2-0, go into their place. You've got to grab hold of that and finish the deal. They did not finish the deal. They had 7 turnovers in the third quarter and not characteristic of them. But I think Chelsea, Courtney Williams had 7 turnovers herself.
Yeah.
So just you're looking for X's and O's, but at some point there's a mental piece to that too. Is you just got to have more of a sense of urgency, and it sounds so simple, Chelsea, but it's so important. And you either have it or you don't. And I think they just let up a little bit, in addition to the fact that they just got beat on. And Minnesota doesn't always react very well to getting beat on. And that's the thing for AT. She's going to beat the crap out of you. And so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. There's a lot of X's and O's, whether or not you should trap AT, whether or not you should have Nafisa Collier on somebody else, so there's not so much physicality, so she can score on the other end. I mean, it's all of that. But the bottom line is, you either have a sense of urgency and you finish the job, or you don't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, point blank. That's how it happens. Yeah, I mean, right now we're going into, I mean, both of these series are definitely going to go to 4 games, have the potential to go to 5, obviously, because we're at 1-1. You
I
never know.
want 5, Chelsea. I
I want
want
you want 5,
5.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I was out last night with a few other, like, sports people. We were talking about the WNBA playoffs, and we were talking about how it feels like it goes by so fast. Like, the first round, you're like, "Okay, 8 teams, fun," and then it's like 3-game series, we were done within a week, and despite the fact that they tried to stagger the nights, it was like, "Okay, a week, and now we only have 4 teams," and now it's like, "Okay, you get the 5-game series and then the 7-game series," but it just feels like it's going by so fast.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that they extended, the 5 games for the second round. But I don't think now you in this first round. At some point, they're going to extend that as well. You're not going to get the easy sweeps that you used to. I mean, obviously Minnesota swept the Valkyries, but it's competitive now. It's no longer 1 versus 8. There's no longer going to be like an easy round for folks.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember back, well, obviously you remember because this was, like, 2 years ago, but, like, single elimination games in round 1 of the WNBA playoffs?
I can't even imagine that now. People would be so mad. It just
People would be
yeah,
so mad. Like,
because you
imagine,
you
like,
didn't get a home game at all, and I was like, "What? How do you have a playoff where both teams don't get a home game?"
yeah. Like, imagine, like, you get, like, say last year, like, Caitlin Clark's first WNBA playoffs, and then it's just a single elimination game. I mean, the game is growing, but it's interesting. I think we're getting into the phase now where we're talking obviously the WNBA playoffs is the big story, but then we're also talking about when the season ends and obviously college is coming up, but then we also have this big looming cloud which is the CBA and like what's going to happen with that. We also have this big looming cloud of like expansion and obviously they're not going to figure out the expansion draft until they figure out the CBA and all of this stuff and then free agency and everybody's a free agent, but like I mean, it's interesting now that we're starting to phase into this conversation, thinking about college, thinking about I mean, college first practices just happened this week. Like we're fully in college season now and um but at the same time the WNBA is like a full year kind of spectacle at this point.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get stories 12 months a year now,
Yeah,
especially with the season and then the off-season stories of who's going where, and then you have
true.
Athletes Unlimited, and then you have Unrivaled. So it
Okay.
is pretty much all year in terms of the news cycle. And I gotta give Unrivaled credit for how they roll out um, the
Yeah.
marketing, whoever the marketing person is for them or people department or whatever,
Yeah.
doing a great job of rolling that out in terms of who's
Yeah.
playing.
Exactly. Yeah, we've started getting player announcements for Unrivaled now for season 2. A lot of really fun returning players. Of course, you have Brianna Stewart, you have Aaliyah Edwards, you have Alyssa Thomas, Natasha Cloud was announced today, Satu Sabli, and then you have a whole like they're kind of integrating the newer players in. So Paige Beckers, Sonia Citron, Kiki Iria Fenn, Veronica Burton is another one. So like they're just grabbing all of these like really elite WNBA players, and I'm curious because last season was the first season, so obviously there's going to be a few kind of, things that you want to improve upon. Obviously, they probably want to reduce injuries a little bit. But then they're all also going to have this new like developmental core, which is going to be announced at a later date. So even these rookies who are being announced, like these are players in the league, which now has two more teams, like immediately expanding. So I'm curious, like what Unrivaled does to try and enhance the experience a little bit more, but also try and avoid because a lot of these injuries that we saw for this year, I mean, Benijah Laney Hamilton might be the biggest one of players that were injured at Unrivaled and affected their WNBA season. So, but I mean, if we're talking just about the rollout, it's been so exciting, and to see these young players be able to get these opportunities right off the bat is also really exciting.
Yeah, and then also I just saw a commercial the other day with the college players we're talking about the crossover in
Mhm.
seasons that
Yep.
they have signed the NIL
Yep.
deals, and that was pretty cool too to see that. So already bridging the two demographics there.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people don't like maybe are forgetting is the fact that Unrivaled is supposed to be like a developmental league. Like I think in the future we kind of transition from these WNBA players that are more veteran. Like I mean maybe there's a few of them, but I do think the Unrivaled league is going to turn into a very young space for these first second year college players to really find a place, figure out who they are as players in a lower stakes environment, be able to get paid a lot more, while they're on rookie deals. And I mean, I'd hope that the goal is for the more veteran players not to have to play all year round unless they like truly want to. But it's exciting to start to see the college integration into, because obviously the hope is that these players in a few years will end up playing for Unrivaled.
Yeah, well, whatever Unrivaled started out as, what it has become is
Yeah.
a bargaining chip and leverage
Yeah.
for the players because they have rolled it out and said this is how it should be. These are the things that should be provided for us as WNBA players. Obviously, a great facility, child care,
Mhm.
great medical care, TV deal,
Mhm.
equity in the league. Like I
Mhm.
don't know in this second year if people are still getting equity in the league, but
Yeah.
they've said, "Here you go, WNBA. This is what it should look like.
Yep.
These are our non-negotiables." So at some point, let's get this done. So I love that it's given them some leverage, and then just now, players know they won't necessarily always have to go overseas. Not that they'll stop doing that because the
Yeah.
pay is good, and there's
Yeah.
only so many slots in Unrivaled and Athletes Unlimited. So
Yeah.
you'll still have players go overseas, but it has become a great piece of leverage for the WNBA players.
Yeah, and I mean, that's so important. We're now about to get into the month countdown of when the CBA is going to expire, and there hasn't been much talk over the past few weeks about any negotiations, if those are going further, if they're still kind of at a standstill. The players will sometimes kind of drop little hints into what they're saying, and it doesn't seem to be going very well from what we've seen, or heard just from players. I mean, I'm curious if Unrivaled ends up being such like a deeply impactful thing for that, if they end up what they end up doing if there is a lockout, like what Unrivaled's role will be in that, and, yeah, and when you also think about it, Unrivaled last year was like a free agency, like, character at this point. Like it was its own entity when you thought about the fact that WNBA free agency was happening at the exact time of Unrivaled, and the fact that these players were all together, they were talking, they were teammates with people they had never been teammates before. I think it had such a severe impact on free agency last year, and when you think about this year, so many players being free agents, all a lot of them being there in Miami to kind of compare notes, and for teams to go down and have multiple meetings with multiple players at the same time, like it's such a big factor in the WNBA, and I think maybe the league's just not realizing it yet, or they don't want it to be and they're trying to stop it.
Well, I think Unrivaled, Athletes Unlimited, they are great contingency plans
Yeah.
and gives them a little bit more comfort in the sense of if we decide that we're going to lock out, we still have ways for us to get paid. Now,
Yeah.
that's a limited number, obviously,
Uh-huh.
but we still have an opportunity to feed our families and
Yeah.
and to make money. And again, obviously, you can go overseas, but there's not if we lock out, we don't have any opportunities. We're not going to make any money, and I think that's a pretty big cushion that you can fall on if
Yeah.
you're one of these WNBA players as part of one of those entities.
Exactly, and it makes them be able to actually hold out, like, for real, hold out for what they want and actually, like, say, "Okay, like, we're fine, like, ball's in your court, this is what we want, and this is what we're willing to do."
I find it hard to believe that if I own a team that's I paid $250 million, like I don't want to go a season where I don't have any income that's coming in. Where I'm
Yep.
not making any revenue because I want to recoup that ROI as soon as I can to get the debt off
Yep,
the books. But you never know. I'm not an owner, so I'm only looking at from
exactly.
my perspective.
I've never had 250, $300 million to do anything with, so I don't
Not
know.
many people do.
Not many people do, and if I did, I'd probably spend it on a WNBA team, so there we go. Um, yeah, I think I'm so yeah, it's just gonna be a really interesting time, and I think it's very hard to talk about the future of free agency expansion, et cetera, until this is done because, it's kind of I think it was just kind of far in the future for a while, but now that we're coming into October, it's like,
Crunch
okay,
time.
let's crunch time. It's like, okay, let's start making plans for even like content when you think about what we do. It's like, let's start making plans for what we're gonna how we're gonna cover this or what we're gonna do for that. And it's like you just can't because you don't know anything and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know what the rules are going to be. You don't know if there's going to be a lockout. So, yeah, and I think I mean, I'm happy that we're coming into college season because that's something that like doesn't isn't it is affected by it, but not as much. We're still going to have a college season. So,
Right.
and I mean, practices started this week and our, poor Flage was out there running suicides.
I can't. I mean, it's so hard to. When I was in coaching, it was always October 15th. Right. That
Okay.
was going to be the first day of official practice, and
Yeah.
and now it's. I mean, it's basically year round. But the rules have changed where you have a certain amount of days that you can use within a time frame, and
Yeah.
so that makes it a little bit different. But yeah, you're starting to uh, see all these videos about teams practicing, and then you're now I not today, but I think in another 3 weeks I can actually start to fill out my rosters for teams. I used to do that in the summer where I would put all my sheets together for all the teams. But now with transfers, like you don't really know who's going to be on the final roster until literally till September, October. So it's not
Yeah.
even worth my time to even do a template of that right now.
Yeah, that's so true, and, yeah, it's nice. I think, I mean, it's the Flaugier thing was funny. I mean, do you know about that?
I saw her
You
running
know
the suicides, and I saw
okay,
the,
the
I
initial
saw the
video?
little vignette when she was, playing, when she was playing Kim Mulkey, so
Yeah, so she
that was
basically
pretty funny, but kudos to her for having a good time with it, you know?
yeah, exactly. She went into Kim's office with a wig and was just kinda, like, having making some videos, they went viral, and then the joke was, like, Kim was like, "Okay, but when practice starts, you're gonna run suicides," and there was the video of her running the suicides, and, I mean, it's just like, yeah, I think we're coming into, a fun era where college is, like, just as much I mean, I don't know, I have a weird perspective because I'm in Canada and college here isn't really fanfare and college there is fanfare, but, like, in a very different way. But, like, when it comes to my access of being able to watch college, for me, it's, like, now on the same level as the WNBA. So, like, as someone who just watches on TV, it's like, "Oh, okay, like, the WNBA season is ending, and now we have this full college season to enjoy, and we don't have to just kinda sit on the peripheral and watch it just by social media or whatever. And I think, yeah, so especially as these players start getting more integrated into the business of WNBA, they're unrivaled signees. We're talking about drafting and et cetera, et cetera. I think, yeah, it's people got to lock in to college to be able to understand what's going to happen in the WNBA next year too. So, it's exciting that practice started.
Yeah, I would assume that you would watch a lot of college because there's a bunch of Canadian players that are on teams here in the US.
Exactly, yeah, I mean, it's up until last year, I would say it was really hard to find them on TV, like, they just didn't put them anywhere. Now I think it's a little bit more, now with players like Paige just came out, Juju, and now, like, we have players like Silas Swords and Toby Fournier and Delaney Gibb and all these players, so I think they're gonna put a lot more effort into showing the Canadian players up here and making sure that people have access, and, I mean, I've been, trying to push these Canadian players and introduce them to people up here. So, yeah, I think that's just like an exciting way to grow the game, especially now that we're getting a team in Toronto that kind of like just integrates the community a little bit more.
Yeah, and you guys hired an American coach for your Olympic team, so
Yep. And she won a medal with you guys, and then we took her. Um, yeah, and I mean, we're gonna do it again. I don't know who they're gonna hire for Toronto. I'm not gonna say we're gonna do it again, but yeah, that's coming up. That'll come up soon too. So, I mean, so much news coming up. I think it's just exciting, and the WNBA playoffs are just one little bit of the big picture right now.
yeah, well, the important thing is that you make sure and get me tickets because I'm coming up to Toronto to see the
Everybody's
temple
coming to
for my
Toronto.
birthday week, and yeah, so you got to work that out for me.
I will. I got you. And anybody else who wants to come to Toronto. I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna start a tour company that's just like, who wants to come see the tempo? And I'll show you all the spots in the six. And we'll do all the fun stuff. It's gonna summer in Toronto is unmatched. Summer in
No,
Toronto is
that's
just
why I'm
out
going to
there.
be there for a week. So
Yep.
you gotta
Summer
have
in
a, an
Toronto is just
itinerary
fun.
for me.
Exactly. I need to, like I gotta do, like, a public itinerary at this point. I've already had so many people being like, "What are we doing?" I'm like, "Oh, man, okay." Um, so yeah, what that's months away. Now summer's ending. Um, but anyway, we're gonna cap it here for today's episode of the Her Hoop Stats podcast. Our lovely team will be back tomorrow to go a little bit more in depth into the weekend's games when it comes to these series and what is in store for the next round of the WNBA playoffs. But so make sure to tune in tomorrow. Subscribe here on I can't speak Her Hoop Stats wherever you're listening or watching, and find us on social media as well. And we also always have newsletters coming out on herhoopstats.com. If you subscribe there, you can have them come right into your email inbox, which is fun. My name is Chelsea Late. You can find me online as well. And of course, always a joy to be joined by Coach. So, yeah, thanks for watching.